In Dr. Howell's absence, I'm going to be introducing our speaker today. I'm Dr. Shepard, for those of you that don't know me. I'm in the psychology department under Dr. Holler. And of course, you guys probably familiar with Ms. Vance, so you know her. Say hi. All right, so today, without delay, because we're going to have to release a little early today, I'm going to go ahead and get Mr. Roberts up here so he can talk with you guys. Remember the process as usual. We'll pass out the sign-in sheet near the end just before we release you guys. Okay? Any questions for me before we get started? Okay, great. Well, without further delay, I want to introduce to you Mr. Roberts. He's going to talk to you a little bit about his career and how he got to the point or to the state that he's at now, and he wanted to offer you guys some opportunities, or not opportunities, but share some opportunities with you so that as you pursue higher education, as you may pursue your master's if you choose to, or you might decide to stop at your bachelor's, he's got all that good, healthy information for you and let you know what you can do with the degree that you have obtained or the degree that you plan to obtain. Got it? All right.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Good morning. How are you? It is my esteemed pleasure to be here this morning to talk with you briefly. Won't take up too much of your time. Again, I am Archie Roberts. I'm with Community Partnership for Children, and I've been there almost 15 years. I've been doing child welfare for a significant amount of time. I do have a BS degree in psychology. We have psychology majors and sociology majors present here. Okay, good. Well, I'm just going to give you a briefing about what I would think you could do as far as we have some questions about what jobs you can obtain in this field. There's a number, marriage or family therapists, addictions counselors, also a mental health counselor. I'll stop there for a second. That's how I started. I started way back when in New York City at a place for a residential treatment facility with youth known having psychotic backgrounds, and I did that for about 3 or 4 years when I first came out of school, and I worked there, made a good living, and moved on into the Board of Education in New York City. So that's a good field to kind of think about going into as well. There's also social or community service managers, and before I go even further, if you have any questions, if I'm going too fast, you can't hear me, just let me know. I'll stop, we can elaborate, and talk about you and your future and what you want to do for your lives. So, but there's a couple of jobs you can kind of do with that kind of degree.
Yeah, question over there.
Yes, sir.
What's your name again?
Archie Roberts. That name alone wanted me to study psychology. Back in the days, I was like, why'd you name me Archie? He was like, because my father's name was Archie. You'll be named Archie, kid. So anyway, but yeah, social or community services managers, you can help direct programs and that provide services to residential care, youth, and family support as needed, addiction rehab, and or other areas of social and community support. Psychologists, you can do that, but you'll probably go above your degree you have now, and I would encourage graduate degrees upon that to go into that field as well. Parole or probation officer, not a bad field. I have friends and family in New York and California that did very well in that field and went pretty far what they were doing in that area. Also, human resources manager. Now you may be able to start in a different position with human services, but as you go along, because you guys look like you're very ambitious in what you want to do, and you be that way, you got to be, dog eat dog and be hungry to go get it. You can move up and become a very good human services manager where you're recruiting, screening, and hiring practices. Coaching as well. Some of you young men or women may be into coaching. If you want to coach and use your degree to go in that area where you can help young people up and coming as well, because your experience is what you may have had for yourself. They ask me, what is my personal story and how did I choose to become my career path? Ladies and gentlemen, I grew up in the New York City areas of Brownsville, Brooklyn, and Queens. I remember going to school in the mornings, stepping over people who I didn't know if they were alive or dead. And that in itself was a mental dis-ease with that for a kid. Imagine 7, 8 years old going to school in those days, and that's just time. You probably, none of you will remember because you're too young, but I'll just give you a brief history. That's the time of the heroin addiction addict. Right now we have opioid problems going on right now, and I deal with those kind of people every day. So it went from that era, me as a small child, literally stepping over them like this to go to school in the morning. So it's like, well, how do you deal with that? Well, basically, you get this mentality like, hey, that's all you know. Some of you might be able to identify with that. So that's how it started. I wanted to find myself where I could maybe have a chance to help other people to not think. Because some people, when you're in that type of situation, you think, well, this is like normal. And in a sense, it is normal. It's like, this is how I grew up. However, I wanted to kind of make a difference if I could. So that was my thing about moving on forward and why I kind of wanted to be in the psychology or social work field. It talks also about going to graduate school. Strongly encourage that for you guys, because you can do many of things with a graduate degree and moving up in your field, whatever you want to do. You can expand upon and make more money. That's the, even though you got to have a heart to do what you're doing. However, I think the object for a lot of people is that they want to be able to make some capital so they can take care of their families, themselves, and move forward. What is a typical day like for me? Well, I am what they know as an adoption specialist for the state of Florida, contracted to the state of Florida for community partnership with children. And I deal with mostly identified homes for children who have come through the foster care system or not in the foster care system. So what does that mean? Basically, it's children who have been awarded the state through family, a non-relative that could consist of myself, this young lady, you, a police officer, whoever it is, but they're not related to the child, but they want to provide some type of care for the kid. And sometimes what happens, the parents doesn't get their lives all together, and their rights end up being terminated. So basically what I do is I deal with that. I deal with reviews for families. I work in the family's homes. I do something called child summaries. I do court reports, and with my title, it's known as a level 4, so that means that basically I'm like a supervisor. I oversee certain things with the staff, the reviews, the reports, all that. Going out into the field, seeing families, seeing children, going to court. Sometimes I transport, doing case reviews, and my favorite is field work. Been doing this a long time, but I love the feel of the family. Sometimes, it's okay to be on the phone and talking with them, but I like to see what my family's about. Like I'm looking at you right now, I like to feel what it is for my family and or families. So that's kind of one of my favorite things of doing with the family. What kind of clients do I serve? Basically for me, a traditional case manager, he deals with the parents, the kid, and the caretaker, and sometimes other people. By the time it gets to me, thank goodness, the parents, they're not involved. Not that I'm laughing about that, but sometimes it can be very difficult in the field, just keeping it real with you when you're dealing with parents. Because, and why? You figure, just real brief, you're talking about children that have been removed from their parents. So I only deal with more or less when they have already been removed and the rights have been gone and they're about to go towards adoption. So that's kind of basically what I do with those type of clients. So basically, I'm the candy man. Like, hello, hey, how you doing? I'm coming over here to ask, are you going to adopt Johnny? Okay, like that. So that's kind of how that is for me. Now, ask me, can I share a memorable moment at my job? Yes, I can. When I work as a case manager, it was a couple of them, but I chose this one. I had 4 kids that were placed with their parents, and the parents, they, had a lot going on. They were substance abusers, things of that nature. And I worked with them, I tried to put services in the home, and just 1 or 2 times after that, they slipped up, and I had to end up removing the children. Didn't want to do that. But we're talking about safety mechanisms for kids. And those kids were older, anywhere between 12 and 17 years of age. But I was like, well, hold on, I didn't want to separate them. But you think about 4 kids that are together, teenagers, you don't want to be separated from your brother, your sister. And sometimes that happens because a lot of times placements doesn't have enough areas or homes to place all the children together. Me though, I was like, listen, I worked all night, ladies and gentlemen, almost tirelessly. to come to find out there was an older sister that was in the system herself prior to me coming on the job, and I was able to use her and place the kids together with their older sibling, who was basically about maybe 20 or 21 at the time, with her own small child, but we made it work. So that was one of my memorable moments when I, when working in child welfare. What do I love about my career? I love it. I'm able to come over here and talk to you lovely people. I'm able to, get out in the field and do things of that nature. I basically love the flexibility. I love mentoring. I actually love to see the smile on the child and the family's faces. That's what made me love my job. That I'm making a difference. So that's one of the things that I really love about it. It asks about surprises. I mean, coming into this field, ladies and gentlemen, I think even you guys, you're in school, I don't know how much you would be surprised, because you've probably heard stories like you're hearing from me, you've probably heard from a number of other people. Basically, I was more or less prepared because of the lifestyle that I lived prior to that. I could get an understanding. Like, for instance, when I was in New York, I was assistant director of programs for group homes for criminally psychotic youth. The cats that was in there, or the young ladies that was in there from the Sparfords, the Rikers Islands, or whatever it was, they came there to the group homes as an additional placement after their crimes had kind of dwindled or they did their sentencing. So for me, I saw a number of things in dealing with these type of youth. So I don't know about the surprises, but I just kind of kept focused on what I was doing throughout the process, like I'm trying to do today, and then would encourage you to do the same. Ethical concerns. It's, as you know, client confidentiality. There's HIPAA laws that you have to be careful about. You also have to watch how you conduct yourself in the public. Basically, Dr. Shepard, this young lady, or any of you, even you, Cookman students, there's a name. So it's about the ethical issues of you carrying yourself in an astute manner because of what your representation is, not just yourself, your family, but of course the fact that you are a Wildcat and you are a BCC family. Same kind of thing as it works for me in dealing with that every day. Public interaction, how you conduct. I have to watch yourself. You have to be careful of what you say to people, things of that nature. And it's like, wow. And they tell you that when you're in training. I used to work at DJJ twice, in New York City and here. It was much better here. In New York City, it was a different level. And I did that, worked at the state prisons for a while, did some counseling in that area. So it was significantly different. So I would say just, have your characteristics in order and be respectful at the same time when you're carrying on your daily routine and working with families. What are some of the things you would have wished I would have known in college? Because when you're in college, you're in this field, some of you, or most of you, you're like almost like a mental or an emotional warrior, like you feel like you can save the world or whatever. That's fine. You do, and I still feel like that sometimes, but sometimes it's so thick. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. So you have to take that into consideration and work hard but smart. I know you know about that. Work hard but smart, because you're going to have a lot. You're doing a lot of reports, doing a lot of reviews. Sometimes the courts are beating you down. The judges, all depends on what county you're in. Some of the judges here in Volusia County have been awesome. Working with the lawyers in town or at DCF or CLS as we call it, they've been awesome. But sometimes it's a lot of demands, whether it's from the higher upper echelon or within the whole gamut of that whole life. So you have to kind of maintain yourself within that. Personality traits. Basically, I don't think anybody has to tell you about that, because I see what I see here and I'm impressed by what I see in front of this classroom with these young individuals. Eye contact and things of nature, but basically it's personable. It's being personable. Be kind but not mean. So, because if you're too mean and you work as the case manager, some of them are going to run over you. It's like, like some of the kids are saying, no, I'm not going. No, I'm sorry, Johnny, but if it comes from me doing what I got to do my job, and you're here, you have to go back there, you're going to go back there. We're going to help you go back there. We have to counsel you to do that, but you will go. So you have to sometimes be, a little more direct with them, because sometimes when you're not direct with some of the clients, they will try to take your kindness as a weakness. Honesty. Be honest with your people. get mad respect for that. I'm sure that's just basically a part of life, more or less. I try, again, go above and beyond. Sometimes, like the situation I told you about, you're in a situation with kids or families, and that one thing you're supposed to do, you might have to do this just to get that family or that child to the next level, as opposed to the normal things in life. You gotta, I'll just put it out there, you gotta have a little bit of game, you gotta have some game and fun. You gotta know how to talk to them, because sometimes you can just G your client down, bless you, a little bit, as opposed to them getting hostile. And learned that from when I used to work in detention and when I was a trainer. A lot of the times the younger officers or officers in general, they would allow the young men to get them to a level where, okay, you know, you gotta restrain them, but just kind of bring it down. Learn. Sometimes you can just talk them down out of that escalation. You don't want to get arrested. You don't want to put yourself in where you get a charge, or because it can happen. So just, you know, kind of learn some, you know, your conversation, working with the families intently, and then giving them some. Now sometimes you have to be all of that. You got to be a counselor, all above in one when you're dealing with these type of families. There's another question on there about my agency, do we do interns? I was just talking with the HR director, and there is a CBC app, to my understanding, a job app, that yes, they do interns, and I've seen personally interns that come in and has worked as interns with CBC and end up getting hired as case managers. If that's what you want, apply. They pay pretty decent in the area to start off with coming out of school for that kind of money, so it's not bad for a young person or any person in this area coming out to do those type of things. So I would encourage, if you can, and if you wanted to, you have an interest to intern. You can intern in adoptions, you can intern with case management. So the opportunities are there for you. I'm going to stop for a minute to ask about you guys have any questions about what I talked about briefly.
As far as those interns are concerned, are they bachelor level interns or master level?
They're both. I've seen both of them doing. I think I saw one person who was actually working on a doctorate that came there and floated with us. Like we did events, adoption events, watching us throughout the day of what kind of paperwork we do, or even going on home visits with us. You know, to do that. Of course, after you do your backgrounds, they do all that stuff before you get there. But yes, that is an opportunity. Anybody else? All right. Well, I have something I want to share with you real quick, if Dr. Shepard and this young lady and the rest of you will allow me real quick. I show this. It's a picture. You've probably seen it before. It's about a young man in Chicago back in the day that was just dressed and on a Sunday hanging out in the car. But that's how it was. Because you young people up and coming now, I just want to say this, I applaud you for doing what you're doing right now. Going to school, it's a very trying time, ladies and gentlemen. Very trying times, and I really, really highly respect what you're trying to do. And I know that everyone in this room is going to go far. I believe in that. I'm telling you straight up. Anyway, I'll just say the path to success has many forms of constructive roads, highways, and byways. You will definitely have to take some detours and travel plenty of alternate routes to get to the main interstate of your destined endeavor. Just remember to place a smile in your heart and face along the way, as you will meet various forms of people through your travels. Some people are not going to be very friendly, won't like that you're smiling, and will not be in your corner, but continue to smile anyway, as there will be far more individuals that will be inspired by your grace, kindness, and warm spirit. Try to live every day to the fullest and not to waste your precious God-given time on petty foolishness and insignificance. And of course, we will repeat those things. I'm grown, long way out there. Sometimes we commit some forms of foolery as we go along in life, but what is that? That's a lesson learned to get to where you want to be today. But I would say you're in a good field. It has its perks. You can do what you need to do to get to the next level. And hopefully, I wish all of you plenty of success towards your future. Well, basically, you're going to be working with mentally enabled, disabled people, more or less. You could be in a number of pockets. You could work with a unit. I worked in a residential treatment facility for youth. You could be responsible for the progress. You know, they may give you 1 or 2 or 3 clients, or they may put you on a whole unit where you're working with people who have those type of issues where they have to be serviced. So you will be responsible for that and working with a team as a unit, or it could be individually. You'll do reports. You will work hand in hand with doctors or psychiatrists on probably a monthly or bi-monthly basis, things of that nature. Yes. You had a question, sir? No. Okay.
I got a quick question,
Yes, sir.
because my background is IO psychology, so I'm a little shady when it comes to what you guys do. When you say you work in a treatment facility, correct?
I used to. Yes,
Okay, you used to. Do you guys deal with drugs?
Yes.
Students on drugs? Could you give us an example of a situation that you had to deal with?
Yes, sir, I will. In fact, we've had a number of youth who, we had, not, I don't want to say good or bad, we had youth that had some issues with addiction problems. And then that worked as a 2-for-1. I'm saying, well, if we work, say for instance, I work at Community Partnership for Children, and I'm working with this youth who has an addiction problem, then I would partner with Dr. Shepard, who works for, say, Stuart Marchman, or ADAPT, or one of those behavioral science, or HBS for the kids here. So I would work with them to kind of get them services. It's all about pulling down services or refer them so they can get the treatment that they had. It was pretty difficult in dealing with children who had had some addiction issues. Like, there's a situation that's happening right now in my office. I don't deal with him, but I know the child because when I first came here as a case manager, he was on my case list. So now we're trying to work with him and get him the services he needs, you know, so he can move forward. And he's 15 years old, and he's been in the systems for a very long time, since he was basically.
What have you seen the likelihood of them being successful once they come through your program?
Oh,
Because like this individual here, you've known him for a long time, and he's just 15, and it already sounds like he's been through a lot already.
Yes.
What's the prospects of a kid like that in the future?
I'll give you this answer, doctor. In my field, I'm going to strictly talk adoptions, and I'll go back a bit. In adoptions, you know, when I'm going to call you up and role play, say, yes, I want to inquire about Johnny or Sally, but I want to put in an application to adopt, and I only want children 0 to 5 years of age. So we can't help you, because it's like Dr. Shepard said, because basically, if a kid is not really placed in that home for specifics through the system, or whatever it was through the system, I say, well, the foster care, or through him being sheltered in the court, then it's not a guarantee. You might be a foster parent, or it could be a lot of grandparents are raising children today, as you know, and adopting them. We're getting to the point, usually the children we have are just like Dr. Shepard said. It's like the kid I pointed out. There's a number of kids like that 15-year-old, and they start at maybe 11, 10, 12, 13, up to 17 years of age. And those are the children we deem as hard-to-place children. And also, basically, there's a criteria about special needs. And special needs doesn't always just mean the children who are, you know, they have developmental delays. In addition to that, there's age, there's their history in the department, there's African Americans are known as special need, and sibling groups. Believe that? So the percentage would be, it's probably 30 to 50% sometimes. It all depends on the work of what you're doing with the kid, but there's no guarantees. Because I've had a kid like this young man somewhat that was able to get adopted and did well, able to go to college. And there's other children like normally over that because what happens when you get adopted in the state of Florida, you might want to hear this, but not saying you're going to ask somebody to adopt you, but if you get adopted in the state of Florida, your tuition in the state of Florida is free. So, you know, anyway. But a lot of kids, are they going to be able to expand upon that? Sometimes not. Because, like Dr. Shepard said, the delays they may have might not get them there, but it's not an even base, I don't think. I just think sometimes you do what you need to do to kind of make it work for whatever child you're dealing with that has those challenges.
Anybody got any questions? Good, and I'll ask for you. One of the reasons that that was a leading question is that when I was in the Air Force, I actually worked as a volunteer for a sexual assault unit, and so I had to go down and counsel. And one of the biggest things that they taught us in the training was to make sure that we found a way to relieve ourselves of the stress that we encounter in doing that. How do you and your colleagues deal with the stress in that field? Because a lot of students in here may be interested in the field, and if so, I think that's something they need to know up front before they go in, like you said, with the "I'm going to save the world" mentality. You know, Wakanda forever. I'm gonna save the world, and you know, and you can't do that because you're burnt out.
I was getting ready to go there. It's a great question. I'm here today. I'm working. This is what I'm doing. You leave, walk out the door. You try to do this and go home. However, because of what we have dealing with, it's hard to. And I encourage my staff, because a lot of times of me leaving this, more than 50% of the time, ladies and gentlemen, it goes out the door with you, because it's the demands that we have. So there's no set time, and that's the flexibility you have. You're almost like your own boss a bit, because you don't really, they can't tell you, well, listen, I got to come in at 8. No, it's no 8:30. I mean, you can get there at that time. However, you might have to go and meet with a family at 8 o'clock or 7:30. So so those are things. But in between that time, going back to Dr. Shepard, I would usually, what I do with my staff is I try to take them out from time to time. We go out to lunch, but I always during the time of the day, like we have these cubicles or whatever, and I'm doing just like this. I'm walking through. You guys are all right. Just remember, drive the car. Don't allow the car to drive you. They start laughing a bit. I say, okay, you know, things like that. So those are some of the things that I use for even myself. Now, personally for me, I do a lot of reading. I do lots of reading, and that was my way to relieve myself. As a staff, we try to keep it together at the job, where we kind of bounce ideas off of each other. A lot of times, even throughout the day when we're doing reports, we're asking questions. Hey, what do you think about this? Like I have Johnny this way, we have Susan with this. What do you think about this? This is what I'm trying to do. I'm writing this said report. Do you think this will work? That's kind of how we do it, and that kind of really helps out a lot to kind of relieve some of the stress that we have going, because it can be really stressful, because a lot of times people coming out of school, it doesn't matter, out of school or in there, being working 10, 15, 20 years, sometimes the stress level is very high because the demands are there. You're dealing with people's and children's lives. So it's a lot, but you have to find those type of points that we use to kind of relieve the stress from yourself. Yes.
I just wanted, I didn't hear your credentials, but do you have any special certifications
Yes.
in addition to your degree?
Yes, ma'am. Basically, I'm a certified, what they call PAR instructor, as well as I have the Florida Board of Certification for social workers. So I've obtained that within the last year. I have to kind of certify that every 2 years. You have to get certified. Some teachers, as you know, it's 5, but us it's 2. So I had that. I did train in human diversity for a number of years when I was in the Department of Juvenile Justice. Anybody else have any questions? Throw them out there. I mean, I can try to answer them the best way I can. I'm here for you. And beyond. It doesn't have to stop it today. You know, you guys can have a question, email me or something like that. We can talk about it. But I would encourage you to come on in if you want. Is this something you want to do? But it's a way to go there. It doesn't have to be the one you want to go with, but if it's something you want to do in this field, it's a pretty decent field. I think it's good. Definitely for starters, because again, like this young lady said, you're building upon your resume for the future. I started in mental health work. I worked in group homes as a director. director, been in a number of areas, worked in, addictions with youth while they were in child welfare, things like that. So you can do a lot by the time you get up a certain level and you become even that more marketable for yourself as you continue to move up the ladder. So it's good. It's a good thing. And you can pass that knowledge on to others that's coming along with you.
What's the typical caseload for a caseworker?
That's a great question. Well, okay, I'll give you the my day. When I first came in, they were just, okay, well, we're glad to see you. Here, there's your caseload, like 40 of them. You feel me? Like, whoa, wait a minute. But now it's a little like they got really good because they used a training unit that they were using to do a minimal amount of cases for the case managers. Anywhere between 1 to 7, up no more than 15, because at one point, case managers were carrying 20 something or above cases, which is a lot. You're talking about cases, we're not talking about children, that could be more. Now in adoptions, it's a lot more now, but we're probably the most seasoned staff at the agency, so they kind of use us as a bending line, because by the time it gets to us, it's more or less going out the door towards what we know as reaching permanency and finalizing. But in the case manager, it's not really that bad, but 1 to 7, they try to keep it there, probably nothing more than 12 or 15 for now. So it's pretty reasonable, but that can also kind of exacerbate, because I tell people, I said, you know what, somewhere along the line, somewhere within the year, you go 10 months, everything is good, cool, and everything is right, but guess what? That 10 and a half months, something gonna happen. The kid might run away, it's just something, and you go, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? So you start internally freaking out, but of course, before you get there, and you put in your services, but that's gonna, so be prepared for that to happen. That something's gonna happen when you're dealing with case management, because it's always a type of things that takes place in this field. Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am.
What happens when traumas happen within the foster home?
Wow, that's a great question. Well, a couple of things. When traumas happen in the foster home, a lot of our foster parents are trained. Some of them have medical foster certifications as well as foster care training, where they can seek out, where they may have to acquire law enforcement. The children may have to go to HBS or Halifax Behavioral Services. And sometimes, because we have an all-call system, and sometimes, I didn't tell you that, but I'll tell you briefly if you ask a question, sometimes it gets beyond that, and they have to involve case management as well. So that could be an on-call person, as an on-call supervisor, as well as an on-call person like myself or you, that would go out and transport or take that child or children to HBS or a placement that, because sometimes the foster parent might say, hey, this is getting out of hand, I can't, and it's going to affect their entire area of the group home, or the foster parents, so they need assistance to come in, like a law enforcement, or taking that child to another area where they can get service either immediately or at the time that they have a placement for them. That's a great question. Thank you.
Any other questions, guys? Okay, I got a question for you. Don't blurt it out. Just raise your hand, and Mr. Roberts will call on you. Anybody know his title? His job title?
Sir? Yes, sir.
Is that it?
It is.
All right. See me after class. You get a gift card for Chick-fil-A.
Wow. That's a good one. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's a good one. No, it's just, thank you, sir. Yeah.
All right, guys. So make sure that you sign this sheet before you leave, so we can give you credit for being here. And let's give Mr. Roberts a round of applause, guys.